Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah amma ba'd. This evening we discuss the life of one of the great army generals of the Deen of Islam. None other than Sayyiduna Khalid bin Walid radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Sayyiduna Khalid came from a very prominent family in Makkah al-Mukarramah. They were wealthy, they were from the Quraysh, they were well known, they were honored. His father Al-Walid was one of the leaders in Makkah al-Mukarramah. And his problem was that he felt very insecure with the coming of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because that undermined his position of leadership. And that is why he attacked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in a way, saying that couldn't someone better be made a Nabi? وقالوا لولا نزل هذا القرآن على رجل من القريتين عظيم. He said that why is this Quran not revealed to some of the great people from either Makkah or Taif? And he continued to torture, torment, trouble the Messenger ﷺ in various ways, and that is why the verse was revealed. ذَرْنِي وَمَنْ خَلَقْتُ وَحِيدًا وَجَعَلْتُ لَهُ مَالًا مَمْدُودًا وَبَنِينَ شُهُودًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outlines as to how he will be punished, and he was punished in the way he lost his life in the battle of Badr. Sayyidina Khalid was a tall man, big stature, very bold, great physique. He was very similar in his appearance to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhum. He was well known in Makkah al-Mukarramah, and he was also, amongst the foremost to oppose the deen of Islam in the initial days. He participated in the battle of Badr along with his brother Ammar, and it was in that battle that Ammar was taken as captive by the Muslims. And at the end of the battle, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then took ransom from the captives of war. And when it came to Ammar, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, don't take anything less than 4,000 from him. And the negotiation continued, and it came to the point where there was the offer that his father's armament, helmet, and his father's other equipment of war was then offered, which was a reasonable amount. And there was tough negotiation, but eventually whatever was required was raised, and he was freed. And the moment he was freed, after that Ammar accepts Islam. So the people ask him that, why did you wait till you were freed? So he says, I was waiting till I get free so that you don't think that I'm accepting Islam so that it has an impact on the negotiation. I wanted that our dealings be totally complete, and then I would show you that I'm accepting Islam for the sake of Allah. Sayyidina Khalid still remains as a non-believer, and it was in the battle of Uhud where he struck a fatal blow at the believers. Allah had granted the Muslims victory as he had promised, but then the Muslim archers left their position, which was against the command of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And at that time, Sayyidina Khalid with 200 men saw the opportunity to attack from the back. And he brought his men from the back. And when they were coming from the back, the other leaders of the Quraysh saw him coming on, and they attacked from the front. And that created chaos in the ranks of the Muslims. And they were running helter-skelter until eventually there was some stability. Then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went for Umratul Qadha around the 6th year. At that time, Sayyidina Khalid was still not yet a believer. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam feared some skirmishes with him. And it was at that time that Salatul Khawf was performed, where the Musallis stand behind the Imam, they perform one rakat, then they go and fight, and the other group performs one rakat, and that group comes back, and like that the Salah is performed as they move forth and come back. And that is when you're in a dire situation, and it is also the time of Salah. Subhanallah, my dear brothers. Even under those circumstances, when you are in the thick of war, then too Salah is not overlooked. The duty remains. While you're fighting, you make one rakat, you come back, the other group makes one rakat, they come back. Such an important injunction of the deen of Islam. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asked some questions after this to Ammar, the brother of Khalid, that it amazes me, a man of intelligence like that, yet he's not guided to the deen of Islam. So Ammar decides to write a letter to Sayyidina Khalid. And at that time, he's also starting to get doubts that he sees the Muslim army gaining momentum. And in his mind, he thinks eventually they're going to take Makkah. What's going to happen to me? Maybe I should go to the Romans. Maybe I should go to the Persians and follow their deen. But yeah, I have so much honor there, I'll just be an ordinary person. And then he sees a dream. And in his dream, he sees that he's in this very restricted place. And suddenly it all opens up and there's light and he's very free and he feels this contentment. And the letter comes to him from his brother who says that, "Oh Khalid, the messenger is asked about you." And the messenger is saying that a man of your caliber, ma mithlu Khalid yajhalul Islam, a man of his intelligence, how can he be ignorant of the deen of Islam? And with that, Sayyidina Khalid's heart turns immediately. And now he makes up his mind that he's going to travel to Madinatul Munawwarah to meet Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So he starts looking for people, nobody wants to travel alone. So the first one he comes across is Sufyan bin Umayyah. And he tells him that, this deed of Muhammad is gaining momentum. Eventually there will be no option for us but to surrender. Let us go in the niche now. And the honor that the deen will get will be our honor. So Safwan had lost his father in Badr. He said, even if I'm the last man to oppose this deen, I will be that last man, but I'll never accept. So he doesn't accept. Then he goes to another person, Uthman bin Talha, and he tries to convince him, but Uthman bin Talha also refuses. He goes to Ikramah bin Abi Jahl, who also lost his father in Badr. So he's thinking, should I tell him? Eventually he tells him, but Ikramah says, no, I'm not interested. So he then decides, let me go all on my own. As he's going out of Makkatul Mukarramah, he meets Amr bin As. And Amr bin As asks him, where are you off to? So he said, no, you tell me, where are you off to? So he says, I'm going to Muhammad. That I see this is the way to go. So he said, that is also my intention. And they both set out for Madinatul Munawwarah. As they're coming, Ammar, Sayyidina Khalid's brother, meets him. And he says, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gave us the glad tidings that you will be coming shortly and you will take the Shahada. Hasten. And as he comes to Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and he takes the Shahada, and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is so happy. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam congratulates him and honors him after that. Shortly after that, the conquest of Makkatul Mukarramah takes place. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam gives him the position that he is in charge of the left side of the army. He was still new in the deen, but already he was granted that honor. Then Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam deputes an army to Muta. And in that army, he then sends the first leader as Zayd bin Harith, the second as Ja'far bin Abi Talib, the third is Abdullah bin Rawaha. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that the one falls, the other one should take over. Eventually the third one falls. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't give any directive. And while they were now wondering what to do, there was one Sahabi by the name of Thabit ibn Arqam. He's seen Sayyidina Khalid. He said, you take the flag. So he said, no, you take the flag, you are Badri. So he said, you are the commander of the believers, take the flag. And with that he took the flag and he was granted victory. He said on that battle he broke 9 swords. It wasn't long after that there was then the battle of Yarmouk, in which the Romans were huge in number. And in that battle, in the thick of it, Sayyidina Khalid says that Utlub Qalanswati, search for my hat, my topi. So people are now surprised that the Amir of the army is looking for his topi, so they think there's something special, so they start looking for it. Eventually they find it, and they see it's an old tattered broken one. So they say that, our commander, this is a broken, tattered one. What was such special about it? So he says, no, at the time of the Hajj, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam shaved of his hair, and I got the forelock. And I'd kept that in my topi. And as long as I had that topi with me, I was always granted victory in the battle. And that is the power of the hair of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Can you imagine the power of the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Because that is what he was sent for into this world. After Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had passed away, there was the challenge of the Murtadeen, those who had renegade. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr sent Sayyidina Khalid out. Some, objected that such a new man in the deen, why are you giving him such a great position? And he said that, I heard Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, he's a loyal man to the Muslim and he is the sword of Allah. During the time of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, when the Muslim army was gaining lots of victory under Sayyidina Khalid radiallahu anhu, and at that time, people started having a lot of confidence in him. Sayyidina Umar then sent a letter to say that you have been removed from your position. And Abu Ubaidah has been put in your position. And he submitted. If that is the Amirul Mu'mineen's wishes, then I will submit. He didn't argue that, but I had attained so many victories and I'm the most worthy person. This position is most likely for me. It wasn't about possession, it was about fulfilling the command. And when Sayyidina Umar had felt that people were relying on him and it was affecting their trust in Allah, he then removed him, and Sayyidina Khalid submitted to this with a willing heart. And he had no malice in his heart. When he was leaving this world, he said that, my horse and my sword is out in the path of Allah. I'm giving it. My home that I have in Medina, I'm giving it in charity, and I want Sayyidina Umar to see to the distribution of it. That is what clean hearts these amazing personalities had, that they never bear any malice. And if we can just learn this one lesson, that would be sufficient. Eventually, at the end of his life, around the 20th year after Hijrah, he was crying on his deathbed. And they asked him, why are you crying? And he says that I'm dying like a woman in her house. I want to be out on the battlefield. That is where I wanted to give my life. And eventually when they do his ghusl, they find that on his entire body, there wasn't even one handspan without a place where there was a wound of either a spear, an arrow, or a stab of a knife. That is how he immersed himself in the thick of the battle. May Allah guide us and elevate their position. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqi Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.